spots. Well, I'm excited. We just did the river crossing. It wasn't too bad.
No.
One kind of deep section, but
Yep.
we made it through. We're about to go up the first, looks like somewhat steep part.
Yeah.
About 5,000 feet today and about 6 miles. So
Yep.
should be good.
That's an excellent summary.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Off we go. How we doing?
We're doing great. Almost to the ridge.
This is
Like
like
backside.
a lot of pitches.
Yeah.
The GPX is deceptive, and I think it's way further to the summit ridge than it looks. But I will.
I think we're fine. Made it.
That's the top. Nice work.
All right, I'm going to do a route breakdown here of Ian and I's climb of Mount Alberta via the easiest route, Japanese route, rated 5.6 in 50 classic climbs in North America. I'm going to give a little description here. There's quite a bit of beta actually out there for this route if you look hard enough. We use Stephen Song's trip report, which I'll show here. This is super detailed. I won't go into too much of the route or the actual climbing pitch by pitch details, just because the information in this trip report is so thorough. This guy's super legit. We also used his GPX track, which was okay. I think it's on a little bit older of a GPX device, so I would recommend downloading mine from AllTrails. It's probably a little more accurate if you're planning on doing this climb. So anyways, the trip report write-up and everything's in my AllTrails. You can see I got it pulled up here. But the long and short is that we took a Friday off, and it was Labor Day weekend. So we had Monday off as well. We left Thursday at like 3:30 from Chelan, Washington. Drove north, crossed the border. There's a bunch of fires in Canada this fall, and then there's also a landslide, so we had to get rerouted on some gravel roads. Drove to a boat launch parking area before Revelstoke at like 10 p.m., slept the night there, and then drove the last 5 hours up Icefields Parkway to the pullout where you start this climb Friday morning. It ended up being over 12 hours of driving on the way up, which is not great. We were also actually intending to do Mount Robson when we left Chelan, so we had all the gear for that as well, but weather window was not looking great for Sunday, so we decided to downgrade to this climb as it's a little less serious, and we were more confident on our ability to hike out if a storm rolled in. So we diverted, went to Mount Alberta. The drive is absolutely beautiful, this Icefields Parkway. Even if you're not into climbing, I would highly recommend going to see it. Banff and Jasper are both along this highway, and it is absolutely stunning. Way cooler than any mountain scenery in the lower 48 states, in my opinion. So the actual climb, you start at, I believe, around 5,500 feet on literally just on a pullout on the side of the highway. You park. I'll switch to satellite view here so you can kind of see what's going on. Right off the bat, you cross this river. I think it's called the Sinwapta River. It's super braided, so it's not this wide. It's probably half mile across. And you just end up crossing a bunch of streams on the way over. We brought extra pair of shoes that we wore. I just wore Romeos to cross. Those got soaked, and then we ditched those for our hiking boots that we carried across right here. It's pretty uneventful. Not quite waist deep. Some of the sections, a couple were pretty fast flowing, so we did have to charge through those, but not terrible, not worth bringing a boat, at least this late in the season. So once that was over with, we got to this other side around noon on Friday, then started the hike up. There is a pretty obvious trail here. It climbs up super steeply at first into this valley. This is called Woolly Creek, which is a really cool, it's really a river. You follow that up, down, up, down, up, down, up this valley. The trail goes right along the edge of the creek. We kind of went too high on our way up, but there's a ton of cairns. It's easy to follow. You basically just stay along the creek all the way up this valley until you get past the last little grove of trees here. Then you go up the trail, which goes up a little bit steeper scree slope. Still a lot of cairns marking the way. And there's a little frozen lake up here. To the first plateau, there's a few bivvy sites up here if you wanted to stop. I think this is like 7,500 maybe almost. Yeah, 7,500 feet exactly. After that, you go up another loose scree slope, which will take you up to this next flat plateau, which I did not see any bivvy sites. And we charged up to about 8,000 feet where we filtered water and took a pretty good break. We were a couple hours in at this point. Loaded back up, and then started probably the worst part of the approach is this 1,200 foot horrendous scree slog from probably 8,300 feet to 9,500 feet on this pass. It's super loose and just seems absolutely endless. Up here, it looks impossible until you get up there. There is a path through, but it's just super loose, like one step forward, 3/4 of a step back. But you eventually make it up to the top of this pass after about an hour, and the wind just absolutely blasted us in the face, and you get an insane view of Mount Alberta, which I'm kind of trying to replicate here on the 3D, but it is huge, way bigger than it looked in the trip report pictures. So we stopped there for photos, and then to get out of the wind, just booked it down this slope, which has a pretty obvious trail. Once you get down to the bottom of that scree slope, we debated going up above this glacier. This was more melted out when we were there, but we ended up going below, as shown here. There's basically some wet slabs from all the water coming off of this glacier covered with loose gravel. So a little bit difficult footing, but you make your way across, and then this is the saddle that has the Lloyd McKay hut, which is a really small hut, barely sleeps 6, but a nice little shelter spot. We were doing great on time. I think it was only 6 p.m., maybe 5:30 mountain time. So we continued on, even though we didn't have a tent. The forecast looked good for the night, so we descended next to Little Alberta, down a little less than 1,000 more feet, down to, I believe it gets down to 8,800 here, or no, sorry, 8,000 here. And then we ended up building 2 small bivvy sites here. I debated with Ian about continuing up to get to the upper bivvy sites, but I'm glad we didn't, because they're pretty far up the route. So we slept here, started early in the morning, right at sunrise, which was, I think, sunrise was 7, so we set off about 6:30. First part of the route is non-technical, just more scree slopes. You traverse south quite a ways here before you follow more non-technical scree slopes up. Follow the base of this cliff band basically up as high as you can get, and then you have an option. You can take this 4th class gully, which we did on the way up, or you can do kind of a long haul around, which didn't look too fun. So we took the 4th class shortcut. Went a little too high here at the top of this gully. I would immediately cut right, and you can kind of see we had to descend a little bit, but you go below these cliff bands, up more loose scree, and then that funnels you into a gully here, which you actually follow for quite a ways. This isn't really given justice on the picture, but this is a long gully, all 4th class, but we went up that, and then you get to another scree slope, where there's actually cairns marking the way, but you'll traverse right around like a lot of minor ridges on these easy ledges. You don't really gain any elevation here. It's just straight across. You go around like 3 or 4 of these little ribs. Then over here, you start climbing again. You ascend. The rock transitions from brown to black and gets like even looser, which sucked. And there is a wrap anchor. We did a few 5th class moves, maybe 5-3 or so, up to a belay station, and that's where we roped up. That's where the first 5-6 pitch is, which is up a face. Ian led the pitch. We only brought a 42-meter rope, which I'll talk about later. That was our biggest mistake of this trip. Should have brought a 70. I was expecting a pitch of 5-6, maybe 2, but there ended up with a 42-meter rope. We probably had 10 to 12 pitches, with a lot of simuling in there too. So Ian led that, and then we started simuling up, and we basically just went wrap station to wrap station. Following each one, you kind of go through a series of gullies, and there's multiple options for the route. It's hard to tell on here, but I mean, if you check our GPX frequently, you'll stay in the right gully. I think we were pretty spot on. Up towards the top, it gets a little harder. You leave the main gully and do a smaller one, and then cross back over and do one last face pitch to gain the ridge crest. Once we finally gained the ridge crest, it took us a long time. Probably, I think it took us over 6 hours. You'll have to check my splits, but it took us over 6 hours to get to the ridge crest, and then you have a long long, over a half-mile ridge traverse of fourth class to get to the true summit. It took us a little over an hour to get there. About 3/4 of the way, you do a wrap, which our 42-meter rope was enough for that. But you do wrap down, and we just left the rope set up there and then scrambled the last, I don't know, few hundred feet to the summit. Summit's actually pretty sizable. There's a few spots to sit down. We got some awesome drone footage. That janky little Japanese umbrella is still up there, to my surprise. I don't know how it stays up there over the winter. It was a beautiful day. The views from up here of the Columbia ice field are insane. Yeah, just really, really beautiful summit, and a great day. We were happy to make it up. Didn't spend too much time though, since we were running out of time before dark, so we booked it down the summit ridge, reversed basically everything, and this is where our 42-meter rope really bit us. All the wraps are set up for 60 meters, some are even for 70s. So we ended up doing the sketchy dance of rappelling to the absolute end of our rope, finding a little ledge to unhook on, or penduluming until we could find a spot, and then down climbing horrible loose terrain with massive exposure to reach the next wrap station, which we were able to do safely, but it cost us a lot of time, and it would have by far been worth just eating the extra 4 pounds and taking a full length rope. So won't make that mistake again on a big mountain. Even if I just think it's a scramble or a couple pitches, it's faster to bring the longer rope just for rappelling. I thought we were going to be going back in the dark for sure, but Ian was super optimistic. He kept the group in good spirits. We eventually made it down to this section where the rest of the descent is non-technical. I guess it's right here where it's not technical. We traversed across these ledges past the upper bivvy site right here at like 10,000 feet. And then it's just skiing all the way down here and back to camp. We made it to camp just at dark, like 9, maybe 9:30, I think, and went to bed here, cooked up meals. Ian filtered water. I kind of made our bivvy sites a little flatter. And we brewed up and went to sleep. Woke up at 4 a.m. getting pelted by rain. That Sunday morning storm was true to the forecast. So we packed up our stuff in a real hurry and rushed up this hill in the dark with headlamps up to the hut, where I slept for about 3 hours. We made breakfast first, boiled water. I went to the bathroom. There's a little outhouse. And then got about 3 hours of sleep, and then woke up at, 9:30 or so, and made the slog out in the wind and rain. Worst part of this entire climb was descending this super steep, loose part of this pass. It was probably 50, 60 mile an hour winds, just enough to like almost throw you off balance, and the rain was just pelting from the side, like the way where it stings. And there's just no room for air because the rock is like thin layer of scree over slabs. I broke both trekking poles on this section descending. Finally made it down to here, and then it's just a trail. Slog out, crossed the river, and made it back to our truck around 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time, I think. Then we drove all the way home that night, Sunday night. Got home a little before midnight, I believe, on Sunday. Or maybe it was a little after midnight, but didn't even need Monday off. Could have showed up to work. So that was the trip. It was a all-time one for the books. It was pretty difficult, but I think 5.6 is the correct technical rating. So that's what I would have given it. Definitely a difficult peak, not to be taken lightly, but is a beautiful area, which made it worth the trip. Okay, I'll go over gear super briefly here. We basically took our same summer technical rock climbing setup here. We did bring ice tools and crampons. There was some fresh snow in the area, but this face of Mount Alberta is, it'd be east facing, so it was totally dry. We ditched that stuff at the hut. So just technical rock stuff, and then pants and a puffy, because it does get pretty cold up there. And I'm glad I brought it. The MSR reactor stove still boiled water extremely fast, so still happy with that purchase. Could have brought a tent, would have saved us that last minute dash up to the hut in the rain, but we did not, and we were fine. I mean, there's a hut, so you always have that to fall back on. Use this ultralight couloir harness from Black Diamond. Ian had the same one. They're fine. They're super uncomfortable to rappel in, but it's like half the weight of my other harness, probably less. And took a bunch of food. There was mice in the hut, so the extra food I left behind all got torn apart and eaten by mice, so that was unfortunate. What else to note? I did wear the Sportiva Trango Tower Extreme boots one last time, and they got absolutely thrashed descending this route. So they're totally destroyed. There's no sole left, and there's holes in the side, so I ordered a new pair of Equilibriums, which I've heard good things about, so we will see how those work out on our next climb this year. Other than that, this is the same setup. You can see everything listed on my lighter pack. The link will be in the YouTube video description, so just check that out, along with the AllTrails route is really what you want to look at if you're planning on doing this route. And then Steven Song's trip report, definitely read that. That's all I'll say. Thanks for watching.